really special film. How does the death of T'Challa affect both of your characters?
You can start. It's a big one for you.
Well, for Nakia, T'Challa was her love, you know, and his loss obviously deeply affects her. We meet her at a time when she's matured. Also keep in mind, there's been the blip, and he disappeared and came back, and now he's passed away. So all of that obviously has taken its toll and affected her trajectory in life. And she's in a mature place, and when it comes to the stages of grief, she's a little bit more advanced than the other characters. We see her more in a place of almost acceptance. Her priorities have shifted and sharpened, but she's still the one you want to call on in your hour of need.
I agree. Yeah.
Like Lupita said, a lot's happened in their world, you know, since Black Panther 1 happened. There was like the blip, the war that came to Wakanda, everything. So throughout all that, M'Baku's relationship with T'Challa evolved from where we met him, you know, where we met at Challenge Day to, you know, showing up and saving Wakanda at the end of the movie. Their relationship completely changed. His relationship to the Marvel universe altogether. He now knows aliens exist, things like that. You know what I mean?
Right?
Their relationships have all changed, and, you know, essentially he's turned into this, like, mentor, you know, to the family. He's very close with Ramonda, and you find out that T'Challa shared some wishes before he parted with M'Baku. So
Black Panther has done a lot and continues to do a lot for the Black community in terms of representation. What does the South American representation, what kind of impact does it have for the community and you personally?
Well, first, I have to say that Black Panther 1, it was meaningful for all of us, even for Latin American actors, you know, Mexican actors. All of us, we felt proudly represented, and for us was like, hey, a guy like us, he looks like us. He has melanin, and he's there being a hero, being a king in this finest civilization. So it was so great. And now with Namor, with Mesoamerican roots, especially Mayan roots, it's great. It's a new opportunity to represent more people, because in Latin America, especially, I mean, Mexico, the rest of the continent, and the people who is living in states with that region, we have two main roots, which is the indigenous root and African root as well. You know, our culture is multicultural. We come from multicultural countries, so it's beautiful if you have this movie, if you have this kind of representation, how you could affect that people, you know, my people, the kids. I want the kids, if they are able to look at themselves in the mirror and say, hey, this is who I am and this is okay, you know, because we were taught to feel ashamed of who we are for a long time, and we share the same wound, you know, and it's a 500 years old wound. Now it's time to celebrate, you know, to heal, and I think this kind of movies, this kind of representation helps.
What was it like returning to the Black Panther world?
It was a pleasure, really, because I mean, a big part of that for me is the show that Ryan Coogler runs. You know, he runs a really, really good set, a very hard-working but friendly, fun set. I like working with him a lot. I didn't get to work with, many of the cast.
Oh yeah.
I don't know whether we can say. So can we say that, Laura? I don't know. I wasn't massively with a load of I wasn't massively with loads of the other cast. But it was good to be back. It was different, obviously. For a start, because things are always different. Yeah. You know, so there was like a 4-year gap in the shooting. Also, you know, Chad dies, and that changes a lot. You know, changes. I mean, I thought it would change everything, meaning that maybe we would. When Chad died, I thought, well, Christ, maybe we just won't do another one then. You know, because how do you keep going without him? But then, so there was a hiatus, and then I read the script and thought, okay, this is how we carry on.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it because I like playing this part, and I like this world, and I like working with Ryan a lot. Yeah.
I feel like fans of the comics have been waiting to see Ayo and Anika together in a Black Panther movie. What was it like working with Michaela Cole on kind of creating that dynamic?
Well, Michaela is fun.
Yeah.
Having someone walking in with that much talent and that much creativity and being that open, that was just fun working with her and playing these two characters. I can't go into details because we're not there yet, but it's a present. It's, like learning from each other, playing strong women, warriors.
Being very careful.
Yes, I am.
They've trained you well.
Yeah, they did. But you know what? In a couple of weeks, it's going to be easier to speak about that.
Yeah.
And because, it takes time for everyone to watch it, and I don't want to spoil anything.
Of course.
Yeah.
Talking about strong women,
Yes.
the idea of a strong woman is something that's always in the discourse. But I feel like in Wakanda Forever, loads of really strong women at the forefront, but this time they show their vulnerability as they navigate grief. What do you think it does to the kind of discourse to see Black women show vulnerability?
I think these women are human, and they have both all these different feelings. And I think for anyone who's out there in a similar situation, you can go out there and be like, they feel the way how I feel, and then you automatically have a connection. And I think this is what it is about, like having these role models that of course can be fierce, but life happens, and sometimes things happen that are not planned, and you have to continue going on. So how do they deal with it? And they still, not everybody deals with it the same way. That's what you've seen, and that is how life is. Some of us are just calm, some of us have a great supportive system, others feel lonely or alone, and then there's anger or disappointment. But that's life. I'm not afraid to show that.
I think that's absolutely perfect, the way in which it's depicted. I mean, the Dora Milaje are always seen as these strong people, which is great, but also being able to see that vulnerability is like another side of them as well, which is nice.
They always had that side, but they've never been in that situation.
Obviously, we get a new Black Panther, which we can't really go into or discuss, but how does this new Black Panther change the kind of DNA of the film? How does it feel?
Wow. How are we supposed to discuss this without discussing it? I don't know. Do you know?
No, not really. Pass.
Pass? Didn't know we could pass. Without going into spoiler territory, Nakia's character, her priorities have shifted and changed. What does your character's future look like in the MCU?
That's a really good question.
That's a great question. I wish Kevin Feige
sit
his butt down up in here and give us some answers. Should ask that about M'Baku too. I'd really like to know what's going on.
Yeah.
I like. Please, yeah.
I mean, what is the future of Nakia? I don't know. I mean, right now, it will take people seeing the film to fully grasp what the possibilities are. And we take it from there. I mean, I could not have predicted where we would go with this second film, and
both imaginatively and just circumstantially.
Right,
none of us saw any of this happening.
None of us saw this happening. We did not imagine a world where Chadwick wouldn't be around, and it just really shakes you. It shakes you, and it makes you realize, like, look, the future is far and the future is unpredictable, and it makes you value the present a whole lot more when you experience something like that. And this story was born of that, like of the urgency of losing him and having to refocus everything. And so for me, when I think about imagining Nakia right now, I'm just looking forward to her getting out in the world in this stage, and then being open to whatever will come next. But I think what has happened in this film leaves us with quite a few options.
I think by the end of the film, no one is gonna know where Wakanda could go. I think that's the whole thing about.
And I look forward to the speculations.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Speculations are
speculations,
always
and
fun.
there is really no way of telling where this franchise is going, because there's a million twists, there's a million turns. Every character evolves and changes radically differently along the way. It's like disparate changes. So where Nakia is by the end of the movie, you have no idea what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen with M'Baku. You don't know what's going to happen with Shuri and anybody. It's just, you have no idea.
You have a lot of runway to imagine it for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great springboard for the creative process for number 3.
Yeah.
The character of Namor is obviously known from the comics. How did you put your own stamp on it?
Well, of course, now he has a different background. But Ryan and I, we decide to go deep in his humanity. At the end, he's just a simple man. He's a simple man trying to save his family, to protect his people, to protect his culture, to protect what is the most important thing for him. And from that point on, we built this character. So I think that's why the people is feeling so identified, and they have empathy with this character, because in the core of the creation, we always have the objective to create, to build a simple man, a simple human being. And yeah, that I think we made it.
I think you did. Do you think there's an opportunity for a solo movie? Would you like a solo kind of story to be told?
I would like, but I don't know. You know, it depends. Kevin Feige said once, it depends of the inbox. It depends of the people and the, you know, how many tickets they buy. So please buy a lot of tickets.
Yeah. Well, your character, Paul Ross, he seems to just get dragged into all the drama anyway. Why is his relationship with the Wakandans so important?
I guess because he's the outsider, I suppose. He's the man on the outside, you know, and I guess because he's working for, you know, one of the most, I would say, the most powerful country in the world, except for Wakanda. In this world, I guess it's along with Wakanda. I guess he's a very useful ally to have in a country like America, who is he advocates for them, and I think that's very useful for them. I like the fact as well that he was introduced in Captain America as someone you're not sure is a goodie or a baddie.
Oh, yeah.
In those black and white terms, I'm not sure if he's a goodie or bad. And he's turned out to be, you know, a useful ally for them, and I like that. Yeah. But he's not touchy-feely, you know, he's not kind of cutesy. He's pretty straight, but he'll do what he can to sort of to help the people he likes and loves.
Yeah, well, he's come to form a really close bond with them.
Yeah.
I think the issue of race is always brought up within Black Panther in this movie as well. Where does Ross's whiteness sit within that conversation?
I suppose in an unexpected way, at first, I guess. It's not only, I don't think it's only his race, but it's also his nationality, is as much as anything. Because actually he's working for who some people regard as, you know, well, it's the world's only superpower, right? And any superpower doesn't want to get its power challenged.
Yeah.
And so Ross is, whether Ross was black, white or brown, he'd be within the heart of that. His main interest is to protect his own country.
Yeah.
So clearly he looks different. Like he doesn't look like the rest of the cast of Black Panther. But at the same time, I think it is as much his nationality and his position in his government setup that makes him the outsider to Wakanda, and makes him an unexpected ally, actually, you know. Because I think that's as much as race is his status within the world's only superpower.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of what colour he was, actually.
And I love that it's his morality that drives him as well. Like there's the right and the wrong.
I think so.
Of his job and everything, but then also he's compelled by his own morality.
Exactly. I think that's what I like about the fact that we didn't really know which way he was going to go. Being, you know, he's a staunch, proud American, right? But it doesn't mean that he doesn't have a sort of moral compass that guides him as well, where he knows not only for the morality of the individuals who he knows, but actually for the good of the world, what isn't going to tip the world into war, for instance, and that's no good for anybody, you know.
I think Wakanda Forever was always going to be a really special film, and the loss of T'Challa, the character itself, was obviously not in the original plan. Do you feel that his passing within the film has changed it so you feel like you've entered a new era, or is it still very familiar to the original?
A bit of both, actually. Yeah, a bit of both. It did feel, I mean, the doing of it felt familiar, but there's no question it also was different. I mean, there was an absence, obviously. You know, there was an absence on set and in the general being of the show, of the film. It did feel different. But then, as I say, things always feel different. When you have a massive, massive success in something, we're very lucky to have a huge success. 4 years later, it's never going to be the same for whatever reasons. So Chad dying is another thing that makes it very different. But within that, there's enough familiarity as well, and enough respect for what we're doing and for Chad to go on and to make the best thing we can make, which is obviously what we would try and do anyway, regardless of losing someone, and regardless of losing someone so central as Chadwick. The whole point is to do something as good as we can possibly do it, and that never faltered. And so, as I say, you know, and with someone like Ryan at the helm, it's not going to falter, because he's hard on himself, and he wants to make the best film possible, you know. But it was a bit of both. It felt familiar and new,
So your character's obviously being evolved further. You're going into Secret Invasions. What was it like taking the character of Ross from Black Panther to Secret Invasions?
And I just sort of I go wherever they tell me to go. Do you know what I mean? I'm a bit like Ross in that way. I'm just like, I'm an agent who goes over there or over there. I like playing him. You know, I like playing him in whatever kind of situations they want to put him in, because he does bits of action and bits of espionage and bits of thinky talky things, but also bits of running around and bits of generally we hope on the side of good, but it's always quite
murky waters.
Ambiguous. It's ambiguous. And I enjoy that, because I think life is ambiguous. You know?
So
it's coming to the forefront. I always love to see the Dora Milaje come out in full force. Always. What was it like kind of training for it this time round and getting back into the swing of things?
I love it. It's fun. I know it sounds really hard, and I guess if you are someone that's not very familiar with physical work, then it can be hell. But a lot of us, we've worked on the first production already, and I train in between, so I never stop. And then it feels like something that comes very, very natural. And on top of that, we work with weapons, so you really need to be able to trust your colleagues and trust yourself, and just make sure that we all get through that period safe without injuries. That was the challenge.
I don't know if you can speak on this, but I know that Michaela Cole has openly come out saying that her character is queer on this show. You can't. But what do you think queer representation does for the Black queer community in a film like this?
I think representation, doesn't matter what the topic is extremely important, because you have people sitting out there thinking there's something wrong with them, and it's not. It's absolutely not. We are the way how we are. And that's okay. And when you see that in a production like this, where people already look up to, it makes a big difference, because it should be mainstream. That attitude, you know. For me, it's nothing new. But I would like people who are maybe having a different attitude watching a movie like that, thinking, hey, I need to change the way how I go through life.
We find the Dora Milaje a different, try not to tread into spoiler territory, but they're at a different position at the end. They go through some changes. How do you think that will affect them going forward?
I think at the end of the movie, they've learned a lot. I think the good thing about Dora training is, that's also something that martial artists learn, is do not ever underestimate your opponent. They don't do that. But sometimes it's new when you deal with things that are bigger than you are. And at the end, you will be smarter.
Do you think that his motivations at the end of Wakanda Forever, obviously we can't talk spoilers, but do you think that they have changed, and will that change kind of filter into Secret Invasions? I'm not sure where that picks up.
Well, I couldn't say. That's the short, boring answer, I'm afraid. Yeah, I can't really say whether it filters into Secret Invasion. Yeah.
Can you maybe describe what the tone of Secret Invasions will feel like?
Pretty dark, I think. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I think pretty. I mean, certainly what I filmed was dark figuratively and literally. It was all sort of quite. A bit murky.
Yeah.
Actually, a bit murky. Quite labyrinthine in terms of storytelling and the amount of people crossing over with each other. And again, Ross has a very supporting role in it. It's not the Ross show by any means, but
It's still very integral, though.
he's got a nice part.
Yeah.
He's got a nice part, and it's definitely worthwhile. But he does what he does in these things, which is he comes in, does his thing, and then makes an exit, and that I really enjoy that.
Can you liken it to anything that we've seen within the Marvel universe, or is it completely different?
It feels pretty different to stuff I've seen, I have to say.
Yeah.
It does feel like a little departure, yeah, it does. In ways that I wouldn't be that able to describe. Again, I've not seen it.
Okay.
Not even read all of it. But the bits I've read do feel different, I guess. I get, because the nature of television, you can luxuriate in things a little bit more. That storytelling process is just elongated. So you have got more sort of time to get those knotty problems out.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, which is the beauty of television at the moment, you know.
I'm really enjoying the way it's expanded into
Yeah,
television
absolutely,
at
I
the
know.
moment.
I think we're lucky.
Have you seen Wakanda Forever, and what was your kind of response to it when you saw it?
No, I haven't,
You
and I
haven't?
hope it's going to be extremely positive.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm going to be really proud of it. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm already proud of being part of it, but I hope I'm going to love it. That's what I hope for everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you'll really love it.
Thank
I really
you.
loved it.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely highs and lows, and like the emotional journey was
No, I'm sure.
fantastic.
Yeah. It was definitely there in the script. That all of that emotion. Yeah.
I mean, you played Sherlock for a very long time. That was a big stint that you did. Did you take any of the learnings from that show into Wakanda Forever?
You take what you learn from everything, really.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, every job you do is informed by everything else you've done up to that point, I think. Learning wise and just craft wise. I think that's, you know, like in anything, whatever you do in life, you are also learning. You know, today you're remembering something, consciously or otherwise, that you did 15 years ago that is somehow of use now. You know, I think all of it is a very long thread, please God, a long thread, to bring you to wherever you are. And then in 3 jobs' time, I will take something from Wakanda Forever into that. Do you know what I mean? It's because like you're always learning. I mean, genuinely, it sounds like such a cliche, because it is now a cliche, but you are learning, you know, if you keep yourself open to stuff, and if you want to keep improving, as I definitely want to keep improving, I take that quite seriously. You take bits that you would do again, you wouldn't do again, you look back on things sometimes that you did years ago and think, yeah, I don't love that, and other things that you think, oh, I'm quite pleased with that, you know. But then I have that day to day when I'm acting anyway, you know. Every day throws up something that I think, oh, I thought I was good at this job, and it turns out I'm not very good at this. So that's pretty usual for me, yeah.